Studio.
Hello, welcome to SacTV. It's Alex Cosper, and today a special guest is Jennifer Steele.
Thank you.
You've also gone by Jennifer Cooper Steele.
I've gone by Jennifer Cooper Steele. Yeah, it's funny. Back in the day, they didn't want you to use your own last name.
Oh, right. Even though I did back in the 80s.
Yeah.
We had a different philosophy there where everyone had weird names, but if you had a weird name, that was okay to use it.
You got to keep it.
A different. No, it's okay to change your name to something normal.
Oh, got it.
But my name, Alex Cosper, that's kind of a weird name because they're really, it's not a common name. So they let me use it. I wanted to use it. I never wanted to be anybody else but me.
Yeah.
But in your case, what happened?
As a woman, my program director felt that it wasn't very safe for me, and of course that doesn't mean anything now because you can research anybody
online
in the beginning of time. So but we sat around one day and shot around names and came up with Steele. So Cooper's my real last name, and then Steele became my air name 30 years ago.
And you've been all over the dial on Sacramento radio and beyond, right?
Yes.
You started out where?
I actually started I went to National Broadcasting School here in Sacramento back in the early 90s, and I got on as a promotions intern. I worked for the old FM 102 back in the day, and then from there I went and worked for Cool 101.1.
Oldies.
The oldies station. And from there I went to Modesto and did my first overnight gig, which was 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. at KO93 in Modesto. And I did that for about 7 months, and it's a humbling experience to work overnights like that because
that's where everyone starts or started back in the day.
$5.
I don't know where anyone starts now.
Yeah, I know, but that's where we did start back in the day, and then I got the call from Cat Country to come work for them during the day in Modesto. So I did that for about a year, and then came back to Sacramento with Fresh Country 98.5.
That's what replaced KZAP, right?
They took over the old KZAP 98.5 on the dial in the old same KZAP building. So that was interesting because there was a lot of stories that went around that building. I worked there for a while, then we were eventually bought out by 105.1 KNCI. And they let everyone go except Dan Cheatham and myself. And we both came over and became a part of the KNCI family back then.
Was Pat still there at the time?
Pat and Tom were there. In fact, here's my story with 105. They were just hiring to replace Lisa at that time. And Tom was up for the job, and I went ahead and put myself up for the job. So I went against Tom for the job of the Pat and Tom job, and obviously we know which way that went. But that's fate, right? And I worked there for about 2 years after that.
They are now the longest running team ever in Sacramento, at least of our morning show.
Amazing. And the nicest guys. I mean, just couldn't be nicer, a couple of guys. So I've always thought so. Yeah.
So I became aware of your radio career, I think in the 90s while I was at Quad, and you and John Young would be on Cool 101. And who was the main morning person?
The main morning team at Cool 101 was the Breakfast Club. So it was Sam Van Zandt, Jim Raposa, and myself, Jennifer Steele.
Okay, and then every now and then John Young would show up and play guitar.
He did, and I got that idea from the old 92.5 when Paul and Phil were there. Because they used to have an accordion player come in on Fridays, if you remember. That was a big deal, and he would do parodies and things like that. And so I thought, wouldn't it be so fun if we could do something similar and have someone come in and do song parodies? And it was a
possible scam. Never.
It was a great time to be doing that politically because that was when the Monica Lewinsky thing was happening and all of that stuff. So we brought John Young in, and he did parodies for us twice a week, and we became really good friends throughout that process. So when they blew up the format at 101.1 and fired all of us, John and I put a show together, and we went to KUIC in Vacaville.
Yeah, KUIC in Vacaville is, he's still there.
He is still there, amazingly.
And that's like a kind of an adult contemporary station?
Yes. Yeah, 80s, 90s, 70s,
but it's
80s,
something
90s.
you can listen to. It's not like regular radio that bombards you with the same songs over and over again.
No, they have a pretty good mix of music, and they have the unique distinction of being the only radio station you can pick up in certain areas of that part of the valley, like Pittsburgh and Antioch. I mean, that's like their main signal is KUIC.
Because they're an independent station.
They are an independently owned, one of the last in California independently owned stations.
That's what Quad was, and that's what I liked about it, and so why it's the only station I talk about. I've worked at like 9 stations.
Yeah.
But there's a big difference between independent radio and corporate radio, which is basically something that tries to be very polished, and there's not much room for experimentation at a corporate station. Whereas independent stations, that's what they have going for them, that they can be creative and kind of do things that no other station can do.
It was the neatest part about working there, I think, is that it was sort of a WKRP feel, right, where you could get away with things. And I had come from Cool 101 doing that morning show, so I kind of based a lot of what we did in our morning show kind of off of what we did there. So they always say, if you've stolen from me, you've stolen twice. Right? So I would borrow ideas from things that we had done, and we would put our spin on it and make it better, and whatever. So I had a lot of fun there. We were there with the Jen and John show for almost 8 years in Vacaville. And then I came back to Sacramento and worked for Armstrong and Getty and did their morning show for a while. We were simulcast on Channel 31 at the same time back then. Did that for about 6 months, and then slid over to KFBK, which is in the same building. And that's kind of how I started.
Getting back
there.
to Armstrong and Getty, isn't that a syndicated show nationally?
They are now. They were not then. They were only on in Sacramento then. And they since then have become major. Yes, they're syndicated and humongous big deal. And I still see them. They're still Jack Armstrong works out of KFBK's office in Sacramento. So I used to run into him in the hallway there once in a while. But from that morning show, I went over to KFBK and I worked at the main station KFBK with Rick Stewart. Did the news at noon. And then I became when Rick passed away, unfortunately, I ended up taking over his position in the traffic center and became the first full-time female traffic anchor in Sacramento out of the KFBK traffic center. So that's something I feel good about. I helped build that traffic center. And it was a really fun gig. I used to do news updates for Tom Sullivan and when he was here locally in town. Excuse me. And that was a lot of fun. Used to fill in for Kitty all the time, and it was a good time to be there back in
KFBK's had a lot of big names come through that.
Rush Limbaugh. Yeah, lots of big names.
Pat Walsh does the night show there, and he's pretty well known.
He's still a good friend of mine.
Yeah, and Kitty, of course, is very well known.
Absolutely.
I interviewed her.
I look to Kitty as one of my mentors in the business. Absolutely. She was very instrumental in teaching me.
She was Rush Limbaugh's intern.
She was his intern, and she kind of passed on that good vibe to me, as helping me along a little bit over there when I was trying to get in with Tom Sullivan and doing. He was very picky about who he wanted in the studio. So I slid in with Kitty, and he figured I was okay. So worked out good. So I owe a lot to Kitty.
So as a kid growing up, did you envision doing news, or were you more into the music side of radio?
I loved the music. I was, as a kid, I was an actress and was very involved in music. I think when I eventually started looking at broadcasting as a career, I kind of thought about news broadcasting at first on TV, because I thought, well, that's still on camera, and I thought that'd be a lot of fun. I wanted to be an actress anyway. And I found National Broadcasting School in Sacramento, and they were radio. And that's the story of how I ended up in radio, is basically like that. And Cammie Winston, who was a big name at the Mix at the time here in town, was my instructor. And she taught me everything I know about how to do music and news and editing and all of that. And she was very instrumental in helping us get some intern gigs out of school that helped me sort of launch my career down that path. And it was a fun time to be in the business, and we were talking earlier about how it's a different business today than it was then, and I think it's a time we may never see again, so I always look back on it very fondly.
Well, the 80s and 90s particularly were very vibrant,
yes,
especially in Sacramento. It was like this up and coming big city. You know, it had been a small town.
Yeah.
And it was growing with lots of cultural stuff. And the media, and you had a music scene happening. There doesn't seem to be the same vibe going on now as back in the 80s and 90s. That just seemed to be a really exciting time to probably not just be in Sacramento, but other places too. Like San Francisco was a lot more vibrant back then, I think. And then
yes.
By the 2000s, they had lots of restrictions at night where a lot of people just didn't go out at night anymore.
Yeah, it became a much different place than it was.
Sacramento, too, became
Absolutely.
a more, less of a nightlife city, but it was in the 80s and 90s.
Oh, it was. And we remember the days, and I'm sure there's people who will remember the days of America Live here in Sacramento. And places like, there were several different clubs around the Arden area. And
the Pepper Mill.
Yes, the Pepper Mill was huge. Yeah, it was a fun time. It really was a fun time. And there was a lot of great talent in this town in that period of time, I think, which made it a lot of what it was too. Mm-hmm. Who were out on the scene doing things, people up on billboards doing crazy stunts. And,
Marcus Allen.
Yeah, Marcus Allen for sure. Yeah.
But I mean, and then TV and radio were connected because you had people like Marcus Allen, who was on radio and then went to TV, and Tina McCua, she did Traffic and then ended up on TV.
Yeah.
And Christina Mendonza did TV and then now is at KFBK.
Radio. Yeah, I know. It's crazy how it all kind of intertwines like that.
Yeah.
We're lucky.
So what do you think about the future? Do you, you've seen radio do what it did, and then podcasting came along, the internet. That seems to be where there's a lot more opportunities, but less career opportunities, more like hobby
No,
stuff.
really, it's a place where you can definitely have a podcast about anything. So you can take your hobby and take it to the air. You know, you can try to get an audience for whatever specific thing you're doing. Absolutely. You know, for me, when I got out of regular radio recently in the last couple of years, I went to internet radio, which is what a lot of people have done also. A good friend of mine, Steve Garland, started up a station called That 80s channel.
Yeah, he came from radio.
He was a big radio guy forever, and I always said I would work for Steve anywhere he went, anything he wanted to do. So he came to me and he asked me if I would do a morning show for him for this new station he was putting together. I said, absolutely, it's the right time for me to do that, so I would love to. So he gave me a clean slate, let me build a show, did the morning show for him for a year and a half, and it was interesting because we operated exactly like a regular radio station. The only challenge is still to get folks to listen to the internet for radio. People don't think in those terms. And it's so easy to do because you can pull it up on your phone. You can pull up the website on your phone and put it through your Bluetooth, and there you are in the car, you've got it, or anywhere. But it's really difficult to get people used to thinking that way. So it's a awesome medium. I think that is probably the next future of radio. I think
radio with pictures.
Radio with pictures, absolutely. I think internet radio will be a way we'll see radio live and survive, and especially more creative radio, because like at That 80s channel, he wanted to create a station just as it was in the 80s. So with the same kind of imaging, with the same sort of sound and all of that stuff. So that's the sort of thing you can do when you own the station and it's your own internet channel, you know. And then like you said, podcasting, now that I'm not doing that project anymore either, that might be a step for me to look at, like you said, as a hobby, but a way for me to, you know, get my creativeness out there and let my show continue to live on. And if I decide to try to go for an audience and build and promote it and that sort of thing, then I can do that. But I think part of the fun part about that is actually doing it and recording it, because you want to have all those episodes in the bag before you try to promote it.
Content is king.
Content is king. And that, you know, sort of leads to something else that I'm working on, which is I do the 80s music trivia videos for TikTok and Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So I have a little bit where I record a daily trivia question for 80s music, and then I record it and I put it on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, and then people get to guess put their answer in the comments on what it is. And so that's developing a following. So I hope to do something with that down the road too.
So 80s music, is that something you love, or was that just what you wound up doing?
80s, I went to high school in the 80s. I graduated in 1989. So all of that music was just from 1983 on up. I was in junior high and high school and living that. And every song we played at that 80s channel reminded me in some way of my youth. And I think that the age demographic that we're in now, it's so true for so many people our age, is that is the music. This is, the kids now call it oldies. And I remember being that age and calling 50s music oldies.
Yeah.
That to me was oldies. But now our 80s music is oldies to them. But to the rest of us, we hear that and it just takes us right back.
Well, yeah, there's something about it that's timeless.
Yeah.
Whereas that's not true of the 50s. Like the 50s is set in the 50s.
You are correct, yes.
Like it's a black and white era, and it's before all this social revolution stuff.
Right.
And the 60s on is kind of like this block of time, 60s through probably 90s.
Yes.
It's a block of timeless time. Like that stuff will be around forever, I think.
Oh, and we were playing songs on that 80s channel that you will absolutely still be hearing on other channels today. There's all the classic hits that you'll always, the Cher songs and there's just different songs that will always play. And you're right, they are timeless. I think that's how people look at it.
And I don't even think of that as oldies.
I don't either.
I mean, maybe young people do.
Right.
But it's a whole different thing than, say, like the 40s and the 50s.
Yes.
That era ended. Okay.
No, you're right about that.
And then the new era that started in the 60s, that kind of never really ended completely, but it fused into the internet era in the late 90s. And then you had 9/11 and all this scary stuff afterwards that changed society. But it's still a block of time that has relevance today,
I believe so, yeah. Absolutely.
There's a lot of optimism in that music and that TV shows and movies.
Yeah.
There were a lot more. It seemed like the world was headed toward getting better rather than worse.
I agree. The 80s embodies all of that. I think it reminds people of a better time, a good time when they were looking forward to things.
Yeah.
And when they were optimistic about things and their future, and that we could do anything, and
like Sacramento seemed like it was moving toward this other world, like a better world.
Yeah, there was more of a sense of, I think,
community,
oneness and community of just the whole country. I mean, really, if you could break it down, I think we were all sort of just feeling more united then, and everything was positive and could happen.
Yeah, so here we are today.
Talking about the 80s.
2026. I don't hear people talking about radio the way they used to. I don't hear people talking about music the way they used to. So we're in a different era now.
Yeah.
And I think tech has it has overshadowed those other things. Like technology, the means of how you communicate rather than the actual message of communication.
That's a good point. I like that point.
And it's like about gadgets, and it's about software and apps and
AI
voice. Have you had to deal with that in any way, being replaced by an AI voice?
No, not so much as, here's my take on the AI voice stuff. I think that there's a lot of them that are really good. They're pretty real sounding, but they still lack some emotion in some ways that you can't portray unless you are a human being. And you can put a good read of an AI person up next to a talented radio person any day, and I think you'd be able to tell the difference because of the inflection, because of the emotion behind it. I'm still a believer that there is a space and a place for good community-based radio, sort of like we were talking about, where the big corporate AI stuff can't compete. They can go ahead and be on every channel in every state across the country, simulcasting at the same time, or whatever, but they can't still break it down and be super local, like some people appreciate or still look to the radio for, And I think at K-Hits, we were on the right track. K-Hits was a great station. It was an 80s and 90s station. And what we were doing towards the end of our run was a very community-focused, local talk format, kind of, where we would ask people questions, we would play some music, come back and play real people's answers to questions. So like, tell me about the time your house got broken into, and people would call with their entertaining stories about how that happened, and we were spending time talking to people live, and through that you would get community stuff that would come up, like, hey, what do you do? Oh, I'm a gem collector, and there's a great gem group here in town. What's their name? We would never get that on any other station, really. And we were kind of onto something, and then our station was sold, and we all lost our jobs.
Yeah, radio stations, they kind of flip around,
with
with different owners, and
it's okay. We know that's going to happen, but I think that there could be a comeback if the right people could get a hold of some stations across the country. If you had just
who are the right people?
Well, if you had one person with a lot of cash, I guess, who could do a really nice community-based station in every market, I think they would be fine. But you're right. We got to find the right people.
Well, it has a track record of doing what it's doing. Radio, I always thought commercials were interruptions, and a lot of people think that same way, but then again, the stations with the best ratings are the ones that can hold an audience through commercials.
Yes.
Like KFBK can do that because it's a lot of talk.
Right.
So all their commercials and their content blend together, Yeah. Whereas a music station, commercials is like an interruption, unless it's got music in it.
Yeah, or an entertaining commercial.
Yeah, like if it's a commercial for a concert coming up, that fits in with that. Yes. I had a friend once who he ran a solar company, and he wondered why he spent a bunch of time on KFBK, why it didn't work. It didn't sell any of his products. Oh. And I told him, well, it's probably because that audience wasn't dialed into solar at that time, back 10 or 20 years ago. But now there is an audience that accepts solar as some kind of legit thing.
Absolutely.
But at that time, it was too ahead of its time.
Yeah, I think that's the key with a lot of commercials is to get your message right out there in the beginning about what you're selling, because if somebody's interested, they'll listen. But if they're not going to. So.
But I think radio is more to complement other advertising. Like if you do a lot of print advertising and add radio to that,
sure,
that becomes a good mix. For businesses out there that want to advertise on radio, I think a lot of them are saddened by the fact that they'll spend a lot of money on radio and nothing happens.
A lot of it's repetition, though, too. And they'll tell you, and it's the truth. They will try to sell you on this point, but it is a true point, is that you have to have it out there so much that people know that commercial when
has
they
to
hear
be
it.
repetition.
And then when they're ready for solar, or when they're ready to have their heater fixed, they'll remember your commercial because they heard it so many times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I drive around, and I mostly hear commercials. I don't drive enough to hear the whole programming, and so every now and then I'll hear a song, and it's usually something I've already heard this past week.
Yes.
On, say, like the Eagle or something like that, and then it's just lots of commercials. So I'll actually try to sit through the commercials and say, okay, what are they trying to sell me, and is it working? Yeah. And usually the answer is no. No, they can't sell me anything.
Right.
But it's still kind of a fun exercise to ask, okay, can this radio commercial sell me on something?
And it's funny because I'm sure you've come up against this as well, but I don't listen to the radio the same as other people. We don't, because we listen. As a production director in my past, I was always listening for the production of the commercials, and like, oh, why'd they use that sound? That's a terrible music bed, or what, that was a really bad read. You should have read that differently.
Right.
That's how I listen to the radio, and it's ruined me and other people for listening to the radio with me, because I'll be like, will you just stop it? Like, I can't.
Yeah, the common person doesn't really critique radio the way a radio person does.
Absolutely.
But, you know, a lot of people don't even consider radio an industry. If they're just a passive listener, they don't think of it as stations competing with each other.
No,
Whereas if you're in the business, that's what you're thinking, you know.
Yeah.
Like, we got to do something to overshadow our competition.
Yeah. I would imagine it's the same in any entertainment. In like the movies, the people who are behind the set and the scenes are probably looking at the production of the movie, like the lighting and the cuts and the acting. And suppose we're just watching the story, but, you know, they're not.
So, well, where do you think your career is headed at this point?
Well, you know, it's interesting, and this is actually a great opportunity for me to address something that's been going on in my life recently, which is my voice, which is a huge tool of what we use in our business as broadcasters. I've been dealing with bouts of laryngitis and raspiness in my voice for about the last maybe 3 or 4 years. And it's gotten worse, and I've been to several doctors, many doctors, trying to figure out the reason why my voice is now so raspy. It's better in the morning, gets worse as the day goes on. Some days it's very, very froggy.
You should do a morning show.
I know. I tried to. But the bottom line is I've learned that I have a paralyzed vocal cord. So I'm in treatment for that. Eventually we're going to do an implant in my vocal cord that will help me regain my voice, a surgical implant. That's going to be about a 2-year project for me. So in the meantime, it gives me a little chance to sort of sit back and take a little break and maybe, you know, work on my own podcast or some behind the scenes stuff that maybe I'd like to see happen in creatively. I've got some other projects, a children's audio CD that I wrote called The 3 Cows. And I'd like to do something with that. I wrote that a long time ago for my daughter when she was little, for something to listen to in the car, and it's available on YouTube, The 3 Cows, Jennifer Steele. And so I'd like to see that do something, and then maybe something with my 80s music trivia videos. I'd like to see that maybe expand a little bit. So I've got some time where I can kind of work on some projects I've been wanting to work on for a while, much like you. Get to that place in our life where maybe we finally have the time to work on some of it.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about it. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Jennifer Steele, thank you for dropping by SacTV today.
My pleasure. It's so nice to hang out and talk to you.
Yep.
Really, I'm
good
thrilled.
luck in the future.
Thank you so much.
I've got so much left to say.
I've got so much left to say.
No one listens anyway. I'm like a blackbird in the sky.